Hi, I'm Arjen Lucassen from the Arion project, and you should watch Note Reviews.
We join our forces, we will make it.
Okay, so I've got some interview questions here that I've been working on.
Sure.
So hopefully, now that we're soon approaching release date for the new album of The Source, how do you feel about that and getting it ready to be in other people's hands?
Usually, I'm in my insecure phase. The way it goes is I'm working on the album, and then I finish it, and the moment I finish it, I'm like, oh, this is the best I've ever done, and the whole world is gonna love this, and this is gonna be the best album ever. And then I send it to the record company. Then I have to wait 3 months, and in those 3 months, the album gets really bad.
Oh no!
Week by week, it's like, oh, how can I release? Oh, it's not good. That's usually.
Mm-hmm.
But this time we put the first track, The Day That the World Breaks Down, we put it on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, as you know, YouTube people can be ferocious, they can be
They can,
mean.
yep.
And, but, there were 300,000 comments within a week or something, and everyone was positive, and it was all good, and I was like, okay, what's happening here? And I did a promotion tour the last couple of months in Europe, and met a lot of journalists. Everyone was like, oh man, your best album ever, we love it. And now the pre-sales have started.
Mm-hmm.
And really they're the best pre-sales I've ever had, the best
excellent.
pre-sales even the record company ever had. And even the edition of the art book, like this one.
I was gonna say, yeah, you had to open up a whole new edition for that.
Yeah, we thought, how many shall we order? And like, isn't that too much, And no, let's do it. And then it sold out.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, come on, man, we have to get some more. And luckily they did. But yeah, so I'm pretty, I'm at the point now where I have to be afraid to be arrogant,
Right.
Try not to be arrogant.
That's right.
the point.
I'm sure you'll be fine. And I also noticed, because I was able to listen to this album now for a good 2 weeks and just submerged myself into it. And I noticed that musically and conceptually, it's a lot heavier. Kind of like how the Universal Migrator Part 2 was a lot heavier than Universal Migrator Part 1. Was especially when you compare it to the last few albums that you've put out, The Theory of Everything as well as The Gentle Storm. Was
Right.
this a conscious thing that you did, like something you wanted to do going into the album?
Yeah. I always, every album I do is a contrast to the album before. It's always been like that. Even with Universal Migrator, I even separated the two. But this time, I think it was Gentle Storm. It was a very female album. Of course, it had Anneke. How much more female can you get than Anneke?
She's a powerhouse.
And it was a love story, which was a challenge for me. Like, oh my God, a love story. And so yeah, I think it was time for some balls. I was like, oh my God, I want something heavy now, something more masculine, something more male. And yeah, let's get back to the sci-fi again. I haven't done that in a while. And it's my roots, as a little boy watching Star Trek. So I think it was pretty conscious from the beginning that I wanted to do something more. And also as a reaction to the album Theory of Everything, which was very much a prog album. As you know, it had members of Yes, Genesis, King Crimson, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and it was very keyboard oriented.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted this to be a very guitar oriented album, which automatically means that it will get heavier.
Yeah,
so.
a lot heavier. Great. So you actually did a very interesting thing with the music video submission this time around, allowing individuals to submit their own music videos for the
Right,
Source
yes,
Flow.
yeah.
And some of those music videos were just brilliant.
I know.
What kind of started this idea for that?
The record company actually was their idea, and I was like, "Are you sure?" Because I liked the idea, but I didn't like to pick a winner. That means they all worked so hard, and you have to tell them like, yeah, that's just not in my character. And they said, no, let's do it. We did it before, and it was great. Mm-hmm. So we put it on Facebook, and we got 200 reactions of people who wanted to do a video. Mm-hmm. And then we had to pick, we had to pick like who's gonna do it. And it was too much for me. I didn't have time for it. So the record company filtered them, and I said, just give me 15, 20 videos, and then I'll names, and then I'll check, which ones are best. So I picked out 5 of them, and they sent in their videos, and we were supposed to pick the winner.
Right.
But like you said, they were all brilliant.
All
I
brilliant.
could not pick a winner.
Mhm.
So we were like, wouldn't it be cool, if the fans can pick a winner?
Yeah.
If the fans can vote. So
Mhm.
we put all the videos online and had the fans vote, and eventually a winner came out.
Yeah.
Not sure if it was all honest, because
No.
if they helped it a little bit, I never
Maybe.
know. But
Maybe.
yeah, it was a cool action, and we got 4 cool videos out of it.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, and I loved everyone. Each one had its own personality, which I thought was fantastic.
true.
Yeah, it brought a new life to the song. And as you were saying with the theory of everything, you also have some amazing talent on this particular album as well. Was there anybody in particular that you were really excited to work with?
Yeah, that's. I would never say that, because I would pick out one of them out, and I'm so proud of them all. I just always think about the guy I didn't mention, like, probably he didn't like, so I would never
Right.
say, And to be honest, I'm proud of them all. And if I would not be proud of them, I would not have used it. And yes, it has happened, also on this album that I worked with singers and I got it, and I was like, it doesn't do it for me. I don't get goosebumps, and that's horrible, because then you have to contact the singer and say, like,
Yeah.
sorry man, it's not what I wanted, I'm not going to use it. So
Mhm.
but unfortunately it happens.
Yeah.
So no, I could not pick any of them.
It's kind of like choosing your own child, right? Like which one is the best out of them?
It's true, it's true, and I don't even have a favorite. Every time I got something, I got Tommy Karavik stuff, and I was like, oh my god, crying, I was crying my eyes out. This is the best I've heard, and then 2 days later I got Tobias stuff, and I'm like, holy shit, he did such a great job, and so it's really I like them all.
Bleeding into that, I won't ask you if you would have anybody else come into this album because it's already perfect as it is. But you did break your own rule of not including people that had appeared on past albums with the inclusion of James LeBray. Would you include anybody moving forward from past albums, like anybody that you would love to work with again?
Well, that rule basically was only for 2 albums, only on the Human Equation and the Theory of Everything. But those were basically the only 2 albums where I had the rule, like no other singers. But to answer your question, loads of them. If I would have the chance to work with Devin again, or Mikkel Akerveld, or Bruce Dickinson, I mean, the list is endless.
Yeah.
Really, again, a question I could not answer.
Yeah, and some of the I even remember watching a lot of interviews of other musicians asking if they would definitely work with you again, and for the most part they're saying, yeah, of course, all we have to wait for is the opportunity. Scheduling,
Okay, great.
scheduling
So
conflict.
who were those? Tell me.
Oh, jeez. I can't remember. It's just a whole bunch of them.
Okay. No, but I've seen it too, and
Mhm.
it's so great to get recognition from fellow musicians. That's the best there is. If I contact Mikkel Akerveld, like, hey, I'm Arion, I have this project called Arion, and he's like, yeah, of course, I know, man, I've got Electric Castle, love it, or reading somewhere in the Dream Theater fan club scene, like they ask James, do you know Arion? Yeah, I love it, I'd love to work with him, things like that is, that's fantastic.
That's amazing. Yeah, and I know that The Source is a prequel to 010110001, which, by the way, is a fun record to try to ask for when you go to a record store.
I know.
But no, it's a fantastic concept. I know inspiration comes from the strangest things, but would you ever do another prequel for another album, such as either The Electric Castle or The Human Equation?
This album basically is a prequel to the whole Arion story. It's a prequel to the whole Arion universe. So, in a way, it is a prequel also to Electric Castle and to Final Experiment and to the Universal Migrator. Because I didn't know when I started Arion that I would create this Arion universe. I had no idea, but at some point with the Electric Castle and Universal Migrator, all the albums started to be connected. There were references to other albums, and this whole Arion universe came into being, which I basically stopped when I did 01, because it was getting so complicated. I had to ask the fans, like, hey, there's this guy on Mars, and do you remember if like was that like in 1984 or 2085 or it was getting so confusing that even for me. So I basically said I'm gonna stop the story, but I totally lied because this time I got back to it. But it's a prequel which justifies it. I think it's a starting point. It's the source.
Yeah, and actually, speaking of the source, it is also one of the first albums to deviate for your usual album artwork. Most of the time, you have that amazing artist, and his name unfortunately escapes me.
Jeff Bertels.
That's the guy. Yeah, just beautiful artwork with every album. But this is the first one, at least with my knowledge, with the Arion project that deviates from that. Any reason for that?
Yeah, I wanted. This is very much a sci-fi album. It's very much science fiction. And to my eyes, Jeff Bertels is a fantasy artist. If you look at Electric Castle, it's an amazing cover, a painting. It's a real painting, real oil painting, but it's fantasy. And Dream Sequencer was still cool. It was science fiction, of course, but it was still had that fantasy aspect. But for this album, I was really like, no, I don't want fantasy. I want science fiction. So I just went to Google Images and punched in sci-fi artist, and I think I spent 2 weeks or something checking out all these artists until I came across this guy Jan Suetre, and it was exactly what I was looking for. It was like dark and industrial, and very detailed. Like Jeff Bertels is detailed too, and my music is very detailed. And then I saw the image of like the lady, in the water with the tubes, and most people see the Matrix, but I saw like a human being having to live underwater, and I thought, wouldn't it be cool if this is the Forever? Because I never showed the Forever race. Wouldn't it be cool if the Forever race was once human? And that's basically what kickstarted the whole story. But that wasn't your question. Sorry.
Oh no, that's fine. No, that's cool. So I will shift gears just a little bit in that I found while listening to this album there was a lot of choir-esque things, a lot of blending of vocals, almost reminding me of, say, like a Freddie Mercury or Queen type of sound.
Yes.
Was that intentional?
I like that.
Oh, it was beautiful.
Well, that's Mike, that's Mike Mills. That's the way I discovered him, actually. I read a magazine 4 or 5 years ago, and it said this band called Toe Hyla from Australia, and it's very Queen, And I love Queen. I love the old Queen, not the new Queen. I love the first 5 albums, And so I checked it out on YouTube, and I found Toe Hyla, and indeed it was very Queen, and I loved it so much. And then I worked with him, of course, on the Theory of Everything, where he had one of the main parts. And this time I had a song, Run Apocalypse Run, which is very like a rainbow song, like Kill the King, and it I was stuck with the chorus. I kept coming back to Gates of Babylon for some reason. Devil is me and I'm holding the key. That's so I contacted Mike. I said, can you think of something here? Because I can't get out of that Gates of Babylon thing. And then he sent me back this whole symphony of voices, and I loved it so much. I said, that's what I'm going to use, man. Can you do this all over the album? And then I really started finding spots for him on the album to just go for it. And he's a genius, He's like Devin Townsend. You have to just tell him approximately, I want this, and just have him go for it. And well, you can hear the results. It's amazing. Sure. But yeah, Queen, definitely.
Oh, wonderful. So shifting gears kind of away from your current, like the latest project, and more into the project from the future. I know you're working with actually touring for the first time. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Well, not really touring. I will never tour. I'm too much of an antisocial recluse for that, or a social recluse, as you may know from my solo album. Yeah. I think the catalyst was the theater equation, the theater production of my album, The Human Equation. It was such a big success, and people loved it, and I was not really involved with the organization, but I was there, of course, and I was behind the stage peeking into the audience. And the audience were so excited, and they had tears in their eyes and big smiles. So already then I went to the keyboard player Joost, and I said, we have to do this. We have to do a real Arion show. We have to set it up, and it will be huge, and it will take us 2 years to set it up. We have to start now. So yeah, 1.5 years ago we went to the venue, and it was a 3,000 people venue. We went there, and they said, well, you can fill it up easily, maybe even 2. So we said, okay, we're gonna book 2. And they said, well, let's take an option for a third one. And we were like laughing, like, yeah, 9,000, yeah. And we put it on Facebook, and like within an hour, the first show sold out. Even in the pre-sales, that was it. Right. Just people with the newsletter. And then the second show, the second hour, and we were like, okay, let's add that third show, which was gone later that day. So truly amazing, 9,000 people in one day, and of course this means that we can put more time and money into the show. So it will be big, 16 singers, 5 people band, classical musicians there, violin, flute, cello, big LED screen. And I don't want to disclose too much to spoil the surprises,
Right.
But yeah, it's going to be a big happening. It's going to be 3 shows. In Holland, already sold out. Sorry.
So I know you don't want to disclose too much about that, but any like sneak peeks or any idea of what songs will be played?
Yeah. It's really gonna be a best of Arion, which means we're gonna play 2 songs of each album, a minimum of 2 songs of each album.
That'll be
So some albums we might play 4, but always a minimum of two songs per album, which is hard, because you have to pick songs, and they're long songs, so you have to edit them down, and But we did it. We got the set list together, and we divided the singers over the set list. So we already started rehearsing.
Oh, fantastic! And how much do you play a role on stage at this show?
Just a tiny role, because I hate it so much, man. I have stage fright, and already now I have sleepless nights. But I have to show myself, because with the theory equation, I showed myself. I just came out of the dream sequencer at the end,
Yeah.
But even for that, I was sick to my stomach.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to get on stage and at least play a couple of songs, and no way to escape that. I'm afraid.
Because this is so successful, is there any plans of moving this across the pond, perhaps in North America, where this guy is?
Well, the thing is, the whole world is coming here. At some point, the venue sent me like a little map of, look, this is where we sold tickets, and it was the whole world.
Wow.
So I don't think it matters much where we do it. If we do it here or in London or in Paris, or I think the same people would be coming, and to bring this all the way to America or Australia or whatever, it's going to be logistically and financially just impossible, with all these singers and all the, maybe one, never say never, because same as with 01, I said I never get back to that story, and I did anyway. So yeah, it is, never say never, but it's not a plan, it's supposed to be just a one-off thing. So.
And will this be recorded for those of us that can't make it, those lucky 9,000?
Oh yes, absolutely. No, of course, and we got a great team set up for it, because the theater equation was also filmed, and it was awful. The camera work was terrible, and people were complaining about it, and they were right, to complain about it, because it was awful. We had 30 cameras, and like. Anneke would be on one side of the stage. All the 30 cameras went to that side, and then meanwhile Eric Clayton was singing on the other side. Oh, where is he? You saw all these cameras. Oh, there he is. And then James LeBrie started singing down. Oh, it was a mess. So this time we're gonna arrange it perfectly. We have 30 cameras. We have 25 camera people. It's the same team that does all the Epica stuff, and we were gonna record 2 nights just to be sure, that everything will go well.
Right, use the best footage from each.
Sorry?
Use the best footage from each.
I don't know. I'm just hoping that we have one whole good night, just to keep the flow. we did the same thing with Star One. It was just one night, and I don't know. It had something magic. I don't want to cut around too much. So we'll see. Maybe it's like a moment we don't have from one show we can take from the other one, or yeah.
True. So switching gears once again, more just general questions. Where did you get this idea of making Arion to be, or is it Arion? Because a lot of people have pronounced it differently.
Arion. Yeah,
Arion. Okay. Where did this idea come from of like a conglomeration of different artists coming in, almost like an Alan Parsons, but like just massive?
Jesus Christ Superstar, for sure. That was the first one I heard when I was just a kid. And it had Ian Gillan, as Jesus. And it had... I loved it so much, It was... I could close my eyes and then it pictured the whole story, and the story and the lyrics, they brought such an extra dimension to the music. And of course it had loads of artists playing parts, so that really was the first one and the best one. That's so high up there. I'll never reach that that height.
It's funny because this weekend is Easter weekend over here, and I listen to that soundtrack every year about this time, so it's funny that you should mention that.
Okay, cool. The original?
The original, yeah, I've got it on vinyl in the things back here.
Cool, yeah.
Just amazing. You've mainly partnered up with vocalists, guitarists, and keyboardists, and I know that you've worked pretty heavily with Ed Werby for the drums, but any ideas or thoughts of including more guest drummers or bass players within your works?
Well, I think Ed would kill me. He would kill me if it would work. Because on the dream sequence, I had another drummer, and he was already like... I said, okay, Ed, do you want to drum with brushes? He said, no, I don't want to drum with brushes. I'm a metal drummer, I said, okay, then, you have to just accept the fact that I'm going to use another drummer on that album. Yeah. So, no, it would feel... it would be on. I wouldn't even dare to tell him, like, hey, you're not going to be on the other Arion album. and besides that, for me, he's perfect. He's the perfect mix between Cozy Powell and John Bonham. The power and the groove, and we just feel each other. We don't have to tell each other anything. We have the same roots. He plays. It's so funny, like he plays something and then he does a fill, and I'm like, oh, I hope he hits this cymbal now, and then he does, it happens. So I have no reason.
Okay.
As for bass players, I love it so much myself. I love playing the bass way more than the guitar. I don't know, it's these 5 big strings, and you can like hit it, and I don't know, it's and also. I'm not a great player myself. As I said, I'm not a great performer, but I do know how to get a good sound. So, so I think the whole Arion sound, if you change one little thing, like the bass sound, the whole Arion sound will be different. And somehow, I don't really have plans. If I get a phone call from Geddy Lee, I may just change my mind.
Of course, you can't pass down that.
No.
Oh, man.
But basically, I'm not really like looking for it or anything.
Okay. No, that's fair. All of your albums seem to revolve about like this great and realized concept, and many artists that have that kind of a concept album then go on to produce some kind of either written or I guess, external project. For example, Dream Theater, with their latest Astonishing album, put out a video game and a book. Rush's Clockwork Angels has a book, and Cambria and Coheed has that whole like graphic novel series. Any plans or thoughts of translating your works into some kind of a printed or medium form?
Would be very cool, of course, but I know nothing about it. I think someone would have to approach me like, what do you think about this, and I would love the idea, of course, but myself, I don't know, I'm so involved in the music, I'm so concentrated on the music, and when the album is over, I want to create something else, so those things are not really on my mind, but basically, if someone would like to do it, fantastic.
Yeah, because I know
I love that.
Yeah, I believe most of the ones have been fan-oriented that the band just loved and then ran with it.
Basically, yeah.
I know that I had seen interviews with you saying that you've never read any big books, and as
True, I didn't want to mention it just now because I'm kind of ashamed of it, but
No,
it's
it's
true.
okay.
Yeah, I've never read a book in my life.
yeah, as a trained librarian, our response is always you just haven't found the right one. But
Okay, librarian.
yes, that's right, a librarian. I love that. But kind of going in that, most of your works are sci-fi or fantasy in nature. Which, I guess, movie, or I was going to say books, but I will stick with movies or even video games. Which one has brought the most influence into your works?
It's not a movie. It's Star Trek, the old series. Me as a little Arion. It was a long time ago that I was small, but I was like 10 years old, I think, and I was just Sunday afternoon, and I was watching TV, and suddenly, this guy with the pointy ears and the blue women and the red sky, and I was like, what is happening here? And really, Star Trek did it for me, and also Star Trek is about emotions, it's about human. It's not about people with laser guns shooting at each other or special effects and stuff. It was really about people, which is what I like, and the word says it, Trek, it was like a discovery, and so yeah, it's definitely Star Trek that lighted the fire for me. And movie wise, it's the usual suspects. It's like 2001, Stanley Kubrick, Blade Runner, obviously, with my solo album,
Yeah, the fact that you got...
and getting Rutger Hauer,
that was amazing.
Void Camp on it, Blade Runner is up there. I love Alien. The first Alien was fantastic, and yeah, the list is endless. The Thing, etc., etc.
And it's funny that you mention how even though Star Trek is a sci-fi, at the end of the day, it's really about the human relations, and I feel that
It is.
particularly with a lot of your works, like even though they are sci-fi in nature, the story itself is actually one about humans.
True, and there was never good and bad, or rarely good and bad in it. It was just like coincidentally they were like ruining a planet, because they didn't know that they were. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but also in my stories, there's never good and bad. In none of my stories, you can find like who is the evil. He's the evil one. Even on the Source, the new album. The frame, the main frame is not bad. They just they get the task of the president saying like, listen, you have to solve the problems, and in their good mind they are solving the problem by shutting down all life systems on the planet. So that's what I like about it. I'm more of a Star Trek guy than a Star Wars guy. I mean, I enjoy Star Wars, of course, and the effects and stuff like that, but yeah, more of a Star Trek guy. More of a Trekkie.
That's perfectly fair. Now, I know all of the Ayreon albums are a concept album in some way, shape, or form, and most of them are a double concept. So I'm wondering which double concept album of anybody else's outside of yours is your favorite?
I would have to say Tommy. Again, because that's my formative years. You always go back to your formative years. Tommy was a double album, yeah. G-Sky Superstar was a double album. War of the Worlds. Was it a double album, obviously.
Yeah,
those are the ones, and then concept albums, the list is endless. Of course, you had all these prog bands, you had Rick Wakeman with Six Wives, and you had Jethro Tull with Thick as a Brick, you had Camel with Snow Goose, etc., etc. And of course, later on, you had Operation Mindcrime, Queensryche, and of course, Dream Theater, what they're doing with Metropolis, and now Astonishing. Basically.
Oh yeah, and each one, exactly. I do have more of a speed round, as I'd call it, which is just either a quick answer or if you want to elaborate, definitely go for it. But a lot of these are either ors, and sometimes they're harder than others.
I hope there's like a Beatles or Rolling Stones in it.
Oh,
because that's an easy one.
It is totally an easy one. Yes, for sure. No, this is a little bit harder, and as a prog lover, because that's really where my heart lies. Most of them are prog related. So the first one, we'll actually dip our toes in to get ready. Did you enjoy Ozzy or Dio's performance more?
Dio.
Okay. Peter Gabriel or Phil Collins?
Peter Gabriel.
Okay. Bill Bruford or Alan White?
Well, that's a hard one.
Yeah, once I get going.
Because I don't really like the jazzy stuff. Bill Bruford, of course, is very jazzy. So I would say Alan White, because he played on my favorite albums.
Okay, that's fair. Greg Lake or John Wetton?
Greg Lake, for sure. He's the man. He's got the voice. And even though I worked with John Wetton, of course, Greg Lake is up there for me. Way up there.
Yeah, of course. For Rush, 2112 or Hemispheres?
Oh my god. That's saying like Beatles or Pink Floyd. Oh my god, you're killing me there. It was, oh my god.
That's fair. As a Canadian, I approve. For Jethro Tull, Thick as a Brick or Passion Play?
Thick as a Brick, for sure.
Um,
It's also, it's not here, it's in the wall on my in my bedroom.
Okay, that's fair.
No, I mean, I really don't mind if you sit this one out. Your sperm's in the gutter. I know the lyrics by heart. I can sing the whole thing, you know.
And
I love Passion Play too, you know. I love like the hare who lost his spectacles and stuff like that.
Piece is just fantastic. And it's funny because I was introduced to your music about the same time that I discovered Thick as a Brick. So a lot of that is actually intertwined between the two.
Cool.
So who do you think would win in a fight? The fox from the front cover of Foxtrot or the girl on Nursery Crimes?
Oh my god. The fox will kick her ass for sure. Yeah. Supper's ready, baby.
Of course. And the final question for the difficult speed round is...
It was easy, man. It was easy.
Oh, man. See, once it gets going, it just comes out.
It's fun. Yeah, it's fun. Go on.
Yeah, next time I'll come up with more.
Yeah, sure.
What is the favorite King Crimson album besides Court of the Crimson Crim?
Oh my god. I'm not that big of a King Crimson fan. I love Court of the Crimson King. That's why I hate your question. I would say Red then, you know, because of Starless and because of John Wetton.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's definitely my favorite outside of the Court. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's all the questions that I have. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your day.
It was fun. It was fun. Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay, cool. And well, we'll talk again maybe for the DVD.
Of course. Yes.
Yeah.
For sure.
And expect another cool choices. I like that game. It's fun.
Yeah. I'll definitely have a lot more next time.
Cool.
Excellent.
I'm ready for it.
Excellent. So just as a final thing, anything you want to impart on the viewers that is watching right now?
Well, yeah, you know, the usual stuff, buy my shit. No, I hope you like the album, and I'm very approachable via Facebook or email. Let me know what you think of it. If you hate it, I can handle it. I learn from it. And just let me know what you think of it. And,
It's true. You are one of the very few artists that when I discuss things, you actually respond. So it was very
I enjoy it, you know. I enjoy it. I really have my set times every day, like the morning 2 hours and in the evening 2 hours. It's just checking, you know, there's all people who pay attention to your stuff, you know, and without them, I'd be lost, you know. I wouldn't know what to do. So, yeah, no, it's something I really enjoy. It's a good thing about the whole socials and about the whole digital thing, you know, because I don't play live anymore. I don't meet the fans anymore. This is a great way to stay in contact. So. Yeah,
for sure. So, yes, thank you so much for coming out, and it's been a huge honor for me to do this interview.
Cool. Cool. Well, you keep up the good work, and I'll keep checking your reviews. So.
Oh, thank you so much. Great, man. Well, thank you. I'll let you get back to your busy life.
Fantastic, man.
All right. You take care.
Okay. Talk to you next time.
All right.
Bye, man.
Bye.
Bye.